I am here. I'm like talking into the void. Am I even here? Oh, there's people. Oh, hi. Hi, Phoebe. Hi, Carla. Hi, Karen from Italy. Wow. How's Italy now? I think it's supposed to be beautiful. Like in the temperature's just gorgeous right now. Somebody was telling me about that yesterday, that it's absolutely gorgeous in Europe. Or where were they? They were in, I think it was Italy. Anyway, hi everyone. Thank you for chiming in and letting me know that I'm not just talking to myself. Although that's not unusual. Hi, Kristen. Nice to see you. So I did a thing yesterday. Some of you might have seen it. Hi, Colleen. I drove to Texas. And the crazy thing is, then I drove back. Like, all in one day. It was 700 miles. I drove 700 miles to go see a horse. And we'll see if that works out. I don't know if it's going to work out or not. I'll leave that there for a moment. But I'm still kind of recovering from that. You know, it's funny, we had a friend named Ned show up. Excuse me. Ned actually was in the area for a day and a half, and he'd been driving a lot. And when he was telling me that he had just finished driving like 12 hours, I actually kind of called him nuts a little bit. I was like, 12 hours? That's a lot of driving. I don't know about driving 12 hours now. Ned, amazing Ned, he's been kind of on this trek. And anyway, he's older than I am. He's 74. But I thought he was absolutely nuts. And I was telling him that. I was joking with him about him driving 12 hours. And then I up and drove 10 hours the very next day. Just laughing at myself. It's kind of funny. So, hi, Vicki. Hi, Colleen. It's so great to see you guys. So, I'm inspired to do this Facebook Live because I've made a new friend. And I'm going to be very mysterious about who this new friend is. But if there are people in the community who have been paying attention, you might either guess or already know, or eventually you'll know. But this new friend is very much connected to Dolores and her work. And so we were chatting. We've been chatting for a couple of days. Brand new friend. She's the kind of friend who you meet and you go, God, it just feels like I know you, even though I just met you. So it was that kind of connection, a really great lady. And we've been chatting, and we actually did a little bit of texting this morning. And one of the things I said to her was, you really exude your own strong connection to Dolores. I like feel that. It's not like, my connection and then we were talking or whatever. It's like I could feel her connection. And as I was thinking about that, and then we were talking about some other things, I mentioned to her that I hear Dolores a lot when I'm driving. I did a lot of driving yesterday, right? And she thought that was interesting. And then just this conversation, because I'm talking to this person who's very connected to Dolores, suddenly I'm hearing Dolores in my head, and so she's talking, and she wants to talk about this. And she flat said in my ear, she said, when I said that, and I made this statement to my new friend, I said, Dolores says it's easy to connect with her while we're driving. And my new friend said, really? And I said, yeah. And then more information downloads came in at the time. And then I got in the car, did some more driving to where I am right now with my husband. And so I didn't have to actually do this kind of driving. And I was really thinking about it, sort of chatting with her back and forth, having this conversation about, channeling is such a strange word. It has so many connotations, but we'll just say that it's easy to be in the space where some higher level communications can be. We know this when you are in a relaxed state. So you are not in a trance when you're driving. You are in control with your body, but your mind can do other things while your body is in control. Nobody who's a somnambulist should be behind the wheel of a car with their eyes closed trying to make a connection like this. Of course. And it might be useful at this moment right now as a memory is bubbling up. The morning that my mother had a stroke, and I knew that's what was happening when my dad called, and I hung up the phone with him and told him to call an ambulance immediately, and that I was getting in the truck and driving straight over. There's a long stretch of highway between our farm and the little town of Augusta, a very long stretch on Highway 77 south of Augusta. And I was going at a pretty good clip down that road, not dangerously so. Nobody was on the road. It was quite early, and it wasn't even that fast, right? Maybe a five miles an hour over the speed limit or so. I'm not somebody who speeds. I might have pushed it to a little bit more than that, but I don't do that kind of stuff anyway. Even in that situation, I didn't. And as I was driving, my stomach was turning over because I already knew, even if I didn't already know, it was going to be a big deal no matter what was going to happen, right? Either she was going to pass, she was going to linger and pass, something. It was going to be a big deal. I knew it going in. And I remember after turning on Highway 77 and heading up north, I remember in my head sighing and sort of saying, God, I wish I would have been able to connect with Dolores before heading over to my mom's house. And that's when I heard her in my head, and she was like, what's the matter with connecting right now? And, part of me is like, because I'm driving. Now, sure, I still think about Dolores constantly, every day, very often, many times a day. But we had a very profound connection at this point because, of course, it was a highly charged moment. I'm going to see what Phoebe says. My brother passed a couple of years ago. We have lots of conversations while I'm driving. Thanks for that acknowledgement. So thanks, Phoebe. And I'm sorry for your loss. I still miss my brother, and it's been so long. Anyway, while I was driving, now this is back in 2016, so this is June of 2016 that this is happening, and I'm driving, and the conversation was profound, and it was beautiful, and it was, again, highly charged, and, I don't know, maybe there's some people out there who do channeling and don't question. I will always question. I'm actually a very practical, believe it or not, sometimes logical person, and I still do it. Am I making this up? Is this really real? And I'm driving, and I think I said it sort of with resignation. I wish I really knew if you were really talking to me right now. I'm looking over at my desk as I get ready to tell this part of the story. So I'm driving, it's 65 miles an hour speed limit on that highway. And I was probably driving 70, 72. Okay, so I'm, it's straight. The roads are like this. Nobody can come out so just know what the situation was, right? I do know that I was highly emotionally charged as I was driving. And some of the things she was saying to me, I don't even need to share about those details, what the conversation was. And I had the sort of thing, the doubting, the questioning came up like that. So remember, I'm going 72 miles an hour, let's say. And I have that doubt come up. And as soon as I have that thought, from out of nowhere, and I'm telling you, you can see miles from out the window. There's no ditch, there's no trees, there's no nothing there. And from my left side to my right side comes this cardinal, and it flies right in front of my windshield. It don't hit it. And I still don't know physically how that was possible. How's that possible? I mean, I don't understand the physics. There's airflow, there's speed, there's all these things. And I was so surprised that it happened. And it was so close to the windshield. And it actually reminded me of a very famous myth my mother used to say. And whether it's true or not, my mind recorded that wing crossing that windshield, and it just happened so fast. As the very tip of that right wing, like touching the glass of the windshield. Now, my mother used to tell me this, and if anybody out there knows this myth or this story as I'm getting ready to tell it, feel free to say what it is, because I don't know, it's not Icarus in the sun, but there's another myth, there's a story out there that my mother used to tell me, that the definition of eternity is when, and it's something like a sparrow, some sort of bird is let go from the earth to fly to the moon once every 1,000 years or something like that. And once every 1,000 years, the sparrow flies to the moon, and it's the very tip of its furthest wing feather touches the moon, and then the bird comes back to earth. And the definition of eternity is when the friction of that feather reduces the moon to nothing. That's the definition of how long eternity is. Colleen says, don't cardinals represent past souls? Absolutely, yes. Or messages from past souls. Absolutely. And, I often wonder, I don't think anybody ever directly asked Dolores that. Did you use the see a red bird? Did the cardinal, is any of that with your knowledge of that understanding of why and how it came to you? And I can just hear her right now said, no, I just like red birds. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe somebody else has an answer to that. I don't know. That's what I just imagined her saying anyway. So there's that. So that's kind of how it all started. And I have found that it is a good time. And I started really sort of thinking about her. It is a good time to connect while you're driving. And to anybody, but certainly to Dolores, who is so accessible. She's so accessible. I am nothing special at all. I'm nothing special at all. Anybody can talk to her. Anybody can communicate with her, and she'll communicate back very often, and you just need to believe that she's doing it, and then that snowballs. So please know that. So there's a few more things to talk about, and it's really funny because I even said to her, I said, Dolores, there's so many stories about you and driving. I could almost do a series. The series could be called Drive. She said it. The series could be called Driving with Dolores. And I said, yeah, maybe it should be, or maybe it's how you do it. But I got a little curious about this. Meaning, so there's a persistent concept, whether or not this is true or not, and I think in some cases it is true. This thing that you can only connect when you're deeply, deeply somnambulistic, or you're in this deep, slow, low brainwave state, is when you make the clearest connection and get the most information, or the most accurate information, or the most pure information. There is that theory. Am I going to tell you that theory isn't correct? No. I'm not going to tell you that theory is not correct. What I am going to tell you is I don't believe that that's the only way. And I also don't believe that you must have that deep, pure state in a session or any other time to have clarity and brilliant, beautiful connection. I think there's other things at play. And one of the conversations that I'm having with Dolores about this idea of driving and making a connection like that, she actually, as we were sort of chatting back and forth about it, she's talking about this idea of, well, there's just enough bodily function that you need to pay attention to while you're having these imaginary conversations in your mind, that it actually creates the perfect lighter trance that can possibly, now follow me, it just get a little convoluted here, but it's Dolores, so, and it's the way my brain works, so let's get convoluted here a little bit. If you sit down and you try to do this, right? Like there's no distractions and you're going to meditate and you're going to channel and you're going to do all of that, or you're going to automatic write or whatever. Dolores actually says your conscious mind has more of an opportunity to come in and throw all the doubts forward. There's just enough activity going on in driving, especially a route that that you drive often, and when there isn't, traffic or there isn't somebody in the car, those kinds of things. She says it's actually the perfect time. It is the perfect alpha brainwave state. Not only is it the perfect time because of that, because there's just enough, let's say, apportioning enough of your consciousness in these different states so that you can allow yourself to have this kind of free-flowing information. And actually moving your body is helping some of that too. Your body is being moved through space like this, and there's a lot of things about it that humans can't even really put their fingers on, right? So there's that. So try it, right? So try it. The next thing is I want to go back to my new friend. We were actually talking about this a little bit. And she brought up something that I said, I have a story to tell you. And I hadn't even thought about it, really. And when she said this thing, which I'm not going to say because I don't have permission, and it would be TMI for my new friend, I started thinking about a very particular day that I was driving. This day was the day that I got into my car. It was in the summer, I believe it was the summer, might have been late spring of 2015. So Dolores had been gone from the planet, but not yet for a full year. And I was headed to Arkansas to run the practitioner reunion and go to the transformation conference. And I knew very well, even at the time, let's just say it was all in the cards. There was a lot going on that not everyone really knew about until quite a bit later that year. But I knew getting in that car, it was going to be hard. And it was going to be hard for a lot of reasons. First of all, it was going to be the first practitioner reunion where Dolores had passed away. Very first one. And I also knew that it would be the very last one I would ever put on, that I would ever host, and that I would ever go to. And I was emotional about that. And I was also very uneasy about going to Arkansas. It was not going to be nice in a lot of ways. Although I met people that year that were amazing, a number of people, and I still had a great time, but I knew there was going to be parts of this trip that were just going to be highly emotional and very difficult. And I spent the morning packing up the truck, and I drove down the driveway and I turned right, and my heart was beating, and it was hard to get in the truck and start driving that way for all the reasons, right? I'm turning that way. I'm like, well, this is the last time I'm doing this, and I mean, there was, parts of me were wondering how things were going to work out, and what was in the future, and how, just all the things, right? All the things. And I took a great big sigh, because I'm just starting. I am 30 seconds into the drive. And I turn on the radio, and as soon as I turn on the radio, the first few notes of the song, I'll Be There by the Spinners. Just call me and I'll be there. In my mind, I had said, Dolores, God, I just hope you're going to be there with me. and with the others in spirit. If I can do this if you can just be there and help. And that song came on. And forever and ever, from here on out, when I hear that story, when I hear that song, I remember that story. And I made sure that I had it all teed up on the phone. And before I gave my welcome speech to the practitioners that year of 2015, that practitioner reunion, I played that song. I played that song before giving my welcome speech. And so there's that story. And I wanted to share that. So I think that may be most of what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm going to look at any comments or questions. So, hi. Everybody's here. Hi. And hi, Jeannie. Oh gosh, my glasses. This is too far away. There's Anya. Hi. There's, I don't know how to say your name. Kas. Seeing dead birds lately. Is that a warning? You don't know, right? I mean, what kind of birds? Where were they? How many were they? Were they in your path? What were you thinking about when you saw the dead birds? There are so many ways to try to decode that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say. Tiffany says, I'm going to add her name to my induction when we call in our teams. I do that too, Tiffany. I do that too. And particularly I do it with people who are very connected to Dolores. I make sure I do it. And we talk about that before we even begin. Excellent idea. Hi, Mary. Nice to see you, Mary. Tiffany says she's been seeing dead birds too. Well, there's a lot of that, shall we say, interference going on with our physical reality on different frequency levels, man-made and otherwise. So, and then there's there's all the ugly stuff, the toxins and the other things. And then, try to stay positive here. I don't, I'm sorry about that, but I really would ask what they are. Some often dead owls and dead hawks and some other things, some dead raptors. They may mean something completely different than walking by and seeing a sparrow in your garden. All kinds of things. Some things are certainly more messages than others. I've ended up being the kind of person, though, that thinks that I don't care what it is, there's a message in it. I mean, I really have. I've thought about that a lot. Even like the way your coffee spills, what the crack in the sidewalk looks like. Does that sound ridiculous? Well, sort of, but some of it has to do with your own energy field. And if nothing else, you're providing feedback to yourself. It's sort of like a walking Rorschach test, right? The ink blot test. Some people see a party and some people see a massacre, all in the same ink blot. So a lot of times it's just information for you, right? So it doesn't have to mean the same thing for everybody. Oh gosh, look at that. Tiffany and Mary are saying hi to each other. Oh, that makes my heart so happy. And there's my man, Kenny. Kenny, where have you been? I know you already answered me. I said, Kenny, I missed you. And there you are. It's so good to see you. Your avatar looks great. Oh, wow. Oh, so many more comments are coming in. Hi, Lisa. Let's see. Pat says, my strongest connection was staring out a window washing dishes. Pat, you know why? I think because there's water running there. Flow. And water, I have said it over and over again, liquid consciousness, absolutely. And you actually, help the water become alive by doing that. There's a lot we do with water that is not a happy thing before it comes out of our faucet. But when it's moving, it finds itself again. And some of that water, I absolutely, and this is why people, how many people do you know that talk about this too, that they get their best ideas when they're in the shower? I think that just fits right there. Kristen says, so true. When we ask, they arrive. It's true. It's true. Hi, Nina. Nina, it's so good to see your name pop up. You've been a little catalyst in my life, just the last little bit, and I thank you for that. Thanks, Colleen. Hi, Daphne. I'm late coming in. I'll catch the replay. That's okay. Lots of stories, always stories. Phoebe says, I find it easy to connect to the other side when washing dishes. Yep, it's true. Yeah, same thing, same exact thing. Nina says, every session I've facilitated lately has had an element of bird lives. 3 in a row the past few weeks. It's big on bird energy right now. It's all been about connection to source. There's a session I had a little while ago that I am so not like Dolores in this way. I don't seem to get anything out there published and in words. I mean, I can talk about some of these stories, and I'm trying to collect things on the back end at some point. Oh, she says, oh, you will. Yes, I know. You know what Dolores says to me a lot, and this is kind of a personal thing, but I'll just say it. I'm not sure I've ever said it, because she actually, a lot of my energy and effort is around taking care of my dad, but Dolores took care of her husband, and it wasn't until that job was over that she, really took off. So she says she really understands some of what I'm doing. Dad's doing great, by the way. Yes, he is. As a matter of fact, Dad, daylight savings, I don't know, got up at 7 a.m. and just started to take a shower all on his own, which he is not cleared to do, just by the way. I happened to be in the basement, and I'm like, I know what you're doing, Dad. And I ran upstairs and made sure that all the things were in place and that he was safe. But, oh, my goodness, yeah. So, my attention is very much focused on him. Okay, let's see where. So Nina was saying this. I interrupted myself about this session I was going to talk about. It was a surrogate session, and I need to talk about that too. Surrogate sessions. She was doing a surrogate session for her daughter, and it was all about an eagle. And at one point, the eagle definitely was a messenger, definitely was a guide. All of this stuff was happening in the session with this eagle. And there was all this bird energy. And I actually, this was a BQH session. She was, online. I happened to be doing this particular session in a back bedroom, and I had the computer sitting on the bed. My back was to my backyard window. And it's sometimes in these sessions, whether they're in-person sessions or whether they are, which are done right here, or whether I'm online. I tell clients this. I said, sometimes you might feel my voice or hear my voice changing like positions. Sometimes I got to get up. And sometimes that's moving energy. And so at this time, while this woman was getting ready to, I'm getting ready to tell you what she did, but this woman was in session and she was making this connection with this eagle, and all this stuff was going on. The computer was here, obviously, and I was standing there, and I was like doing this. Like, I'm like, it's sort of a swaying, it's just common in this work, sort of almost an infinity sort of shape. My back is, again, to the backyard and the windows. And then there's this one point where I suggest to her to make a direct connection to this eagle and the eagle energy. And she actually melds with the eagle. And then she says a couple things, and then she does this thing where, I can't remember right now if it was before or after she told me, but she was talking about the eagle opening up its beak and letting out a giant screech, call, whatever you want to call it, right? And anyway, she's telling me about it, and all of a sudden her body goes like this, and she just like, and she's there for the longest time with her head back and her mouth completely open like that. And this energy, I'm watching the waves of energy go over and over and over her body. But at the moment she throws her head back and does this, sometimes you got to find the humor in things, but I think this is more than humor. I think it's connection. My rooster in the backyard started crowing and crowing and crowing and crowing and would not stop. And she just laid there for an inordinate amount of time with that body position like that, letting that come through. And tears were coming out of her eyes. And it's rare that this kind of thing happens, but it did happen in this session. And I really play these things a little differently maybe than other practitioners. So be aware of that when I mention what happened. I believe this is what happened. I need to go back and review the session. But she pretty much, tears were coming out of her session. She brought herself up out of the whole experience when that was over. That was the culmination. There was no thing that needed to come after that. There was no continuing anything past that, because that is why she was there. And then we did a official closing of the session and debrief. Okay, so there's that, and that might be it for the bird story I wanted to tell. Okay, so let's see. If something feels like, Phoebe says, a message for you, but another person only sees a crack in the sidewalk, then it was a message for you and not them. It's true. It's absolutely true. Yep. Water is liquid magic, says Cass. I hope I'm saying that right. Provides cleanse on all levels. Absolutely. Colleen, thank you, sweetheart. I'm not even going to read that comment. It's too beautiful, but it's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Jay says, eagles fly the highest and see the furthest. Absolutely. One of the most impactful sessions in my own life was being an eagle in the sky over my farm. It was amazing. All right. Well, I think that I am going to wrap it up right there. Maybe we'll have more driving with Dolores kinds of videos. Doesn't that sound like fun? Maybe you all could make some too. Driving with Dolores. You connect with her, see what you get from her, and we'll compare notes. And if you're a practitioner on our forum, maybe we'll splice some of these together in a video, okay? It's going to be in the 70s today, and I am going to get myself outside to the barn and into the garden before this day goes away. And for those of you who are watching the horse drama, and it is a drama for me, it is a big drama. The horse that I went to go see down in Texas, Bowie, Texas. Do you know how they spell Bowie, Texas? In Texas, you know how you spell Bowie? B-O-W-I. So if anybody shows up and says, their East Coast clothes and briefcases and say, I'm going to Bowie, Texas, boy, everybody's going to make fun of them. I mean, not directly because Texans are too polite, but B-O-W-I is Bowie. Bowie, Texas. I drove down to Bowie, Texas and back. And I'm doing this auction on this horse, and that happens tomorrow. And so by the time I go to bed tomorrow, I'm either gonna be, I don't even know what. It's going to be interesting, right? I've never done anything like this before. No. Nothing like this before. And I was liking what this horse looked like, and I thought, but I can't, there's no way I can even play in the game of trying to bid on a horse unless I look that horse right in the eye. And I put my hands all over him and hopefully ride him. And that's what I did. And it took a lot of hours and driving to make it happen, but God, I'm so glad I did. The drive was amazing. North Texas, around there, around that area, is absolutely gorgeous. Grasslands, rolling hills, really wonderful energy. If you've never been there, see if you can't drive through or take a visit someday. I was so glad I went. Bowie, yeah, James Bowie, the famous knife. Thanks, Kate. You're right. And I mean, yeah, I don't really know the direct, I don't know if it was named after him, if he lived there. I don't know. Maybe you know, and I don't know. More driving with Dolores. Yep. I like it. I mean, I really, really like it. Not just for me, though, right? But I'm going to see if I don't even know if you can do this, but I did this live. I wonder if I could repackage this and put this on YouTube. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. It doesn't matter. Thank you guys for spending some time with me. I'm going to head on out for today. I really, really appreciate you and your energies. Thank you. Bye, everyone.